It's going to be a bloodbath. There's going to be a bloodbath one way or the other.
Bloodbath for Bernie Sanders.
It's been a bloodbath there, shaping up to be a bloodbath.
Head off a bloodbath in next year's crucial midterm.
Off-year elections are often a bloodbath.
This week's bloodbath for Democrats.
A bloodbath at the ballot box.
We know they're lying. They know we know they're lying. But they keep lying anyway, and we keep pretending to believe them. If you are still stuck watching mainstream media, network news, God forbid, who watches network news anymore? 80-year-olds, maybe? If you're not listening to talk radio or getting your news from streaming services like this, then this weekend, Saturday night, you tuned in, and this is the news that you were delivered.
Bruce in for Lindsay Davis. We begin tonight with the race for the White House and former President Trump's campaign now on the defensive after his fiery rhetoric at a rally in Dayton, Ohio on Saturday night. Trump warning while discussing the economy that there would be a, quote, bloodbath if he is not reelected in November.
Wow, that sounds really bad, doesn't it? If you don't reelect me, there's going to be a bloodbath. We're talking, Hamas level terrorist activity. We're talking blood on the streets, a bloodbath in this country. Horror, that's really bad, right? And if all you got was that, or maybe the write-ups that you saw on social media from the networks or from your liberal brother-in-law, then you just heard Donald Trump threaten outright bloody, murderous revolution in the streets if he doesn't have his way and win the presidency. And if those media outlets dared to show you the clip, the quote, like, give us the details, I want to hear him say this. This is probably all you saw.
Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it.
There you go. Smoking gun. The man's a fascist. The man's a terrorist. Proud Boys stand by, right? Very fine people on both sides, right? There we go. You got it. It's over. This man disqualified. You can't vote for him. If you're voting for him, you're voting for a fascist, for a terrorist, threatening that sort of thing. How dare he, right? Right? Of course, thankfully, you have alternative means of media. You have direct access to the truth. You don't rely on all of those dinosaur corporate media outlets that I just described, who framed the former president's speech that way. So how about we look at what he actually said in full?
Mexico has taken, over a period of 30 years, 34% of the automobile manufacturing business in our country. Think of it, went to Mexico. China now is building a couple of massive plants where they're going to build the cars in Mexico and they think that they're going to sell those cars into the United States with no tax at the border. Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us now, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it.
Wow, it's a little different, isn't it? Bloodbath. He used that phrase in a much different context, didn't he? And I kid you not, there are people today, as we speak, right now, who have not seen that clip, who only know the news delivered to them by the networks, by certain cable networks, by certain websites and streaming services. There are people who will go for the rest of this year until Election Day who truly will believe that Donald Trump called for a bloodbath. The same people who think that Donald Trump down in Charlottesville during his presidency said that there were very fine people on both sides without condemning white supremacists and neo-Nazis, which he literally did in the same breath, but that got clipped. That never got shown. I'm lectured to by the likes of Jake Tapper and George Stephanopoulos and Rachel Maddow about the big lie. And while you're witnessing the big lie, you're witnessing the big lie right now. Sometimes memes can explain these things better than any words. So here's the meme. There's the quote, going to be a bloodbath for the auto industry. Here's what the media picks up. And, you know, as you watch, well, first, quick, here's President Trump's response to this today. He put out a truth on Truth Social. The fake news media and their Democrat partners in the destruction of our nation pretended to be shocked at my use of the word bloodbath, even though they fully understood that I was simply referring to imports allowed by crooked Joe Biden, which are killing the automobile industry, not at auto workers, but not their leadership fully understand what I mean. With the electric car mandate being pushed by Biden, there soon won't be any cars made in the USA unless I'm elected president, in which case auto manufacturing will thrive like never before. MAGA 2024. I don't know if he meant that rhyme on purpose, but I like the symmetry of it. Of course, that's what he meant. And I know there are people out here who say, well, he shouldn't use the word bloodbath. He shouldn't use the word bloodbath anyway, because the definition of bloodbath is a massacre, right? Well, there are many definitions of the word bloodbath, and the word bloodbath is used rhetorically in many different circumstances. In politics, a losing election, or when an election goes very far the other way, sometimes you call it a landslide, sometimes you call it a bloodbath. In economics specifically, you know, the world that Donald Trump has lived in his entire life, like from birth, he's been in the real estate and business game. He went to the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. Business is in his blood. And in the world of business and finance and economics and real estate, when somebody gets wiped out financially or a business gets just killed on Wall Street, that's always referred to as a bloodbath. In fact, if you go to Merriam-Webster, the third definition of the word bloodbath has nothing to do with actual violence. It has to do with economic failure, which is exactly what the man was talking about, economic failure. But all of my betters, my superiors, the people who are so much smarter than us and have much more moral virtue than you or I have, they will tut and they'll say that sort of discourse has no business in American politics, not in this climate, not today, not after January 6th changed everything. We shouldn't use violent rhetoric like that. Of course, this is the same thing they were saying back when Gabby Giffords was shot by a madman, and they blamed it on Glenn Beck and Sarah Palin. This is what they do. They're trying to neuter us and keep us from being able to speak freely about our politics. It's not our words they don't like, it's our ideas they don't like. But because they can't combat our ideas, they try to make our words forbidden. So they say, well, we just shouldn't use the word bloodbath ever. That's not what we should do. Well, thank you to Molly Hemingway over at The Federalist for showing us many examples of the media using bloodbath. Here's their headline reaction. When is a bloodbath not a bloodbath? Let me answer the question for you. A bloodbath is not a bloodbath if liberals are using it to describe Trump and conservatives. Here's Politico just a couple of days ago. Bloodbath at the RNC. Trump team slashes staff and committee. Yeah, when Republicans get fired by Trump, it's a bloodbath. Battleground bloodbath. Clinton leads Trump in 7 swing states back in 2016. Boy, it's great to walk down that memory lane, isn't it? Because, well, the bloodbath ended up on the other side of the equation. When Clinton's beating Trump, it's a bloodbath. If Trump beats Clinton, it's a stolen election, but that's a whole other story. November 2020, after Joe Biden won the election, yesterday was a bloodbath at the Pentagon. Today, people are worried that loyalists the White House has installed across the Defense Department will stonewall the transition. Bloodbath is just fine to be used in that context. But again, that's not the point. Those are print outlets, and that's just somebody tweeting to get clicks, right? We're talking about electronic media. We're talking about people on camera or at a rally like Donald Trump was. You don't use the term bloodbath. No, it's wrong, and it incites violence. It just shouldn't be done, right?
But as Politico.com reports tonight on the, quote, bloodbath at the RNC,
Headlines calling it a, quote, bloodbath.
Be a bloodbath. Not only is it going to be a bloodbath, but after they leave New Hampshire, it's a bloodbath on her home turf. That's really tough.
Trump has left a lot of corpses in his wake. I mean, we can count the bodies as part of the, quote, MAGA drive to take over Maricopa County. And the headline refers to it as an impending bloodbath.
Columnist Charles Blow has a new piece for the New York Times entitled A Biden Bloodbath.
2018 midterms, you can bet that they 100% are fearing a slaughter. In fact, the word bloodbath and massacre come up frequently.
The Republican Party will be destroyed. It's going to be a bloodbath.
There's going to be a bloodbath one way or the other.
Bloodbath for Bernie Sanders.
It's been a bloodbath. They're shaping up to be a bloodbath.
Head off a bloodbath in next year's crucial midterm.
Off-year elections are often a bloodbath.
This week's bloodbath for Democrats.
A bloodbath at the ballot box.
There could be a Republican bloodbath.
They'll talk about a bloodbath.
It's a bloodbath. I have to talk about you. And
It's going to be a bloodbath all day long. Is in for a bloodbath.
Hasn't been a bloodbath on the way down. Donald Trump bloodbath. Be a bloodbath.
Predicted to be a bloodbath.
May not be the bloodbath.
It would be a bloodbath.
More of a bloodbath. It's going to be a bloodbath in November.
Possible Biden bloodbath this November.
A bloodbath on Wall Street.
There's going to be a bloodbath in Alabama into a bloodbath.
Obviously, there was a bloodbath. It was a bloodbath. We're down 800 points.
This bloodbath at Department of Homeland Security.
And it's a bloodbath today.
There was going to be this bloodbath.
Election bloodbath.
It could be a bloodbath for them. Bloodbath, possibly.
Bloodbath that went through with the Attorney General.
Bloodbath 99 days out.
The bloodbath is going to look like
Presided over a bloodbath in the diplomatic corps.
Absolute, in my opinion, bloodbath. The Democrats are calling it a ticket sales turned into a bloodbath.
Ticket sales for singer Taylor Swift's latest tour.
It's safe to say the fans had a bloodbath for the company after the fiasco.
I think my favorite is the Taylor Swift injection there at the end. Yes, you saw Grabian get the credit there, and they deserve it fully. And our friend Tom Elliott there, who lickety split put together that incredible montage. Well, but all right, you're taking this right. This isn't about the word bloodbath itself. This is about a man who was running for president, who was fear-mongering, who was dwelling on the deepest, darkest recesses of those politically disaffected individuals who are angry in the basement of their homes or their mother's homes, who are just ready to wreak violence on this country because they believe if their candidate doesn't win, it's going to be the end of our nation, that there's going to be internment camps, there's going to be slaughters in the street. That's what's really wrong here, and that's what Trump does. And he shouldn't do it because it's awful, right? And he's the only one who does that sort of thing. It's terrible, right? Well, let's go back to Tom Elliott at Grabian because he's got a montage for that too.
What would a second Donald Trump term look like?
well, he cannot be the next president. Because if he is,
you can't imagine the things that he's going to do. Mexico, Canada. We can't go to Canada because eventually Canada will become annexed to America.
And shoot visitors to the White House. Yeah. That means he can shoot the First Lady.
We're going to see violence, the likes of which we didn't even see on January 6th.
Make it illegal to run against him, to throw his opponents in jail, to shut down the media.
He will make himself into the Fuhrer, and he will make everybody raise their hand and salute him.
Using martial law against the American people.
Terminate the Constitution.
To rewrite the Constitution.
Create mass internment camps.
Throw everyone into Gitmo.
Might be sent to jail, or their rights might be suppressed, especially minority groups in society.
You might have any number of things happen to you and your family.
Every one of us, our freedom, our liberty, none of us is safe.
It's going to have people around him executing against an enemy's list.
Assassinate generals.
Ordering troops to attack American citizens.
Trump's very well-armed and extremist base will try to kill people.
He's going to basically burn the house down.
He will unravel the institutions of our democracy.
Draw similarities between Mussolini and Hitler.
Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini.
Makes Donald Trump even more dangerous.
Wants to take away your vote. Senate and the House are immediately going to be paralyzed.
People will begin in their minds to censor themselves. They might say, well, maybe I shouldn't say this.
It's the end
of democracy. Yeah?
I think that could be the end of our democracy.
But democracy is dead if Trump is reelected.
Cozy up to Putin that democracy will be at risk.
The absolute destruction of the Justice Department as we know it.
The Justice Department could be entirely transformed.
I am really concerned about that.
Every person who was associated with the attempted coup elevated in the administration.
If he's reelected, he will curb transgender rights.
And the rule of law.
Arrest political opponents. To persecute, not prosecute, but persecute his enemies.
Take a wrecking ball to the rule of law.
He's going to make the law. Everyone else will have to follow.
A vote for Donald Trump may mean the last election that you ever get to vote in.
All right. This actually goes on for another minute. The viewers of CNN and MSNBC have literally a daily dose of that kind of rhetoric, where the viewers there, who all have friends and family members, children or parents who support Donald Trump, they are told on a regular basis that that friend or family member in their life who supports and intends to vote for Donald Trump is voting for the end of our country, voting for internment camps, voting for assassination squads. That's what those viewers are getting on a daily basis. But I'm supposed to let my hair on fire because Donald Trump used the word bloodbath when referring to the automotive industry and the economic fallout of the Chinese manufacturing cars and then selling them here in the United States of America. I want to quote Alexander Solzhenitsyn, famous Soviet dissident. And I've always tried to memorize this quote, but I always get it wrong. So I am going to read. I very rarely read to you. But this is a man who suffered in the gulags, who recognized and was a famous Soviet dissident. The most, let me set the hyperbole aside for a second, because I think Red China and Communist China probably has now superseded the Soviet Union. But for decades in the 20th century, the Soviet Union personified the perfect utopia of a totalitarian Marxist communist regime that had complete control, not just of the economy and the thoughts and beliefs, but also of the propaganda media. And as people were dying in the Soviet Union, dear leaders would go up and stand on the dais and celebrate their great successes, even though the people knew otherwise, because, well, they know that their friends and family are dying because of famine, because of authoritarian regime murdering them because they got caught, stealing toilet paper or something. Solzhenitsyn said, "They lie to us. We know they're lying. They know we know they're lying, but they keep lying anyway, and we keep pretending to believe them." And that's where we are now, not with the government necessarily, but with the American media, which at this point is almost an extension of the government, or vice versa. I'm still figuring that part out. And this is 100% true here in America, except for the last part, we keep pretending to believe them, because unlike the Soviet Union, we have this and we have each other. You see, the media went with the bloodbath narrative, knowing full well the truth. But they went with it because they don't care. They don't care that you know the truth. They don't care. They lie to us. We know they're lying. They know we know they're lying, but they keep lying anyway because there's no accountability. None at all. Now, this story developed on Saturday. The truth was out almost immediately, right? And Sunday, as the day developed yesterday, that's when we saw a bunch of reaction and pushback from people who had seen the truth, who took to social media. There's no talk radio. There's not many streaming shows that go live on Sunday. So we've now had several hours of morning talk radio on the East Coast. We've got some streaming shows like this one that's starting to actually develop these ideas and show you the examples of the gross lie, right? But by the time MSNBC started its broadcast day today, surely the truth was known. Surely they knew they were going to get called for their crap. So how did they address the story today? Surely they were now going to consider, all right, well, it's not quite as bad as we originally thought, but here's some context here, and here's the... Let's watch how MSNBC treated the story today. A full 36 to 48 hours later, as the truth was officially 100% out there. Let's see how they covered it.
Michael Beschloss, I want to ask you about Donald Trump increasingly sounding like a fascist, a dictator, mimicking them, and using words that are clearly out of the pages of some of the most powerful autocrats or dictators
Absolutely.
of our time in the world.
Absolutely.
And I guess the fear is that for some Americans who may not be informed about history, there's that vulnerability that Trump preys upon. And then there are those who are making the choice. And I need to understand that. Is there any precedent? Or is this how fascism works? Are they sucked in and brought in on different terms, whether Trump has something on some Republican leaders or others are just so uninformed they don't care? Is it a mixture? How does it work? Is there a precedent?
Now, couple things here. That last thing she said there, you know, the people who are ignorant of history or in some way compromised or just ready to sell their soul, that's you she's talking about. That's me. She's talking about me too. We're just ignorant of history. We're the stupid ones, you see. Also, by the way, it's ironic to see faces up here on this screen now wringing their hands. Look at how forlorn and very deeply concerned they are with their furrowed brows about the use of the term bloodbath because, you know, Hitler. These are the same people who in the great montages the Grabian put together were using this exact same kind of rhetoric and literally the word bloodbath to describe Donald Trump and to describe what would happen if he becomes the president, right? They're the same people. Again, they don't care. They don't care. They know, you know, they're lying, but they don't care. But listen, that's Mika Brzezinski, right? I mean, let's face it. She's just... You know, she's Joe Scarborough's trophy wife, right? She and Joe are just a Me Too situation with a happy ending, right? But if either of them ended up breaking up with the other, trust me, it would be Harvey Weinstein all over the place over at MSNBC. You know how you have to go through your DEI training at your workplace and you're told, you know, you shouldn't even flirt with any of your coworkers, let alone have a relationship with them. That is absolutely forbidden. That disrupts the power structure between men and women, and we can't have that in the workplace. And meanwhile, you know, these two, Joe and Mika, that was just a Me Too thing. It just happened that they both, you know, ended up happy at the end until they're not. But, you know, God bless them. I hope that their multiple third marriages work out well for them. Let's see what Joe has to say now that he takes the helm. I'm sure he's much more reasonable. He used to be a Republican after all.
He's talking about a bloodbath for America. It's laid out in the terms of it. And these idiots on Twitter, these idiots on cable news, these idiots on Sunday shows going, well, presidents, you know, he was talking only about the auto industry, and this is one more. It's just bullshit. Let me say that at 6:15 a.m. It's just bullshit. He knew what he was doing. We're not stupid. Americans aren't stupid. He was talking about a bloodbath. Sometimes a bloodbath means a bloodbath. And when he finishes by saying, and that's just going to be the least of it, seriously, these people may be stupid. We're not.
I'll agree with him here. He's not stupid. He knows exactly what he's doing. And he knows exactly what he's saying. And never forget that this really isn't about Trump. This is about you. That's why he's saying you're stupid. These people is the term he uses. Yeah, there's another word for that, Joe. Americans, citizens, voters, viewers, if you cared about them, but you don't. You only care about preaching to the very small choir you have, mostly in Manhattan and Washington, D.C. But that's who they are. And that's what they think of you. They lie to us. We know they're lying. They know we know they're lying. But they keep lying anyway. But we don't, because we're not in the Soviet gulags. And there is no threat yet of the Soviet gulags here. We don't keep pretending to believe them. We fight back, we push back, and we expose them. Keep an eye out for it, because it's just March 18th. We've got about 8.5 more months of this. and we're just beginning.